Hey, what's up, guys? Kane here with XBLA fans, and I'm just gonna be kind of doing like a quick monthly review. Just going through all the different games that released this past month in the month of March, and kind of just giving you some basic feedback on them. I've played pretty much everything. I think I missed Kona is the only game I haven't had a chance to touch. Some of these I have, stronger opinions on than others. That's just kind of how it works. But I'm going to be going through pretty much every game that came out that's kind of on the indie space. I'm going to be focusing on those. Not really going to go into the Neo Geo titles, and I'm not really going to go into the AAA stuff. There's a lot of people who do stuff on AAA, so obviously, I like to keep our focus on XBLA fans, on kind of like our bread and butter, which is more of what used to be XBLA. So, I'll be doing kind of a separate cut of this video probably that's just going to be kind of like our favorites. So if you're only looking for the good games, I'll have a little, breakaway thing here where it'll just be like, hey, click this. Here's our favorites. But I'm going to go through everything in this one. So that includes kind of the meh titles and some of the bad ones as well. Because sadly there are some. So I'm going to start off with Bloons TD5. Bloons TD5 is a tower defense game. I actually very much enjoyed it. I was a little put off by the price, I'm not going to lie. The fact that it's $14.99 here, whereas I believe the PC version is like $5 cheaper than that at least, and the mobile version is like $4, is just kind of off-putting. However, I did talk to the developers, and this is actually why we don't have a quick taste video for this, is because it took them about 3 weeks to get back to me. And that's just that I wanted to know why the price was so different, because I had a very hard time recommending this game at the time when I didn't understand what the difference in the game was. And they gave me a fairly decent answer, I feel like. So basically the mobile version's obviously cheaper. It's, limited screen space, it has some severe lag issues, with when you get to late game. So, when you have tons of things going on, obviously mobile can't keep up as well as most PCs. It's just kind of how it is. So the PC version's been, optimized for mobile to kind of allow for a much better experience. So that price jump makes perfect sense to me. A lot better than a lot of other ones, because they said they actually put in some effort, to make sure that that stuff works and the extra, power behind the PC, is shown. And then they told me the difference between the console version and the PC one is largely because they had to optimize everything again for console. So, they had to change the fact that now you've got a different UI slightly. You've got the controller support. You've got the fact that now there's a much larger screen real estate, where, you could theoretically be using a 60-inch TV compared to 27-inch monitor or something. I think I use a 22-inch monitor, so I don't notice a difference. That price jump is a little less hard to swallow, a little more hard to swallow than the other one, in my opinion, because it's kind of just like, well, it costs us about $5 worth of effort, so we're going to put $5 more price, which, well, it's kind of fair. It kind of sucks as a console gamer to be basically, having to foot that. So I will say this, it's a fun game. It's a pretty good game. $15 is a little difficult for a game that you could play on Flash. Obviously it's not the exact same. It's not the exact same as the Flash version. So that, when people say stuff like that, it's kind of hard to, completely take them seriously, even though I just said it. It's mostly meant to be a joke. But I would say, it's a decent game. I would personally wait on a sale, unless you're just a huge tower defense fan, and it's a pretty decent game. I didn't really have any problems with the quality of it so far. I've only played about 3 hours of this one. So, don't take this for a review. I have not played enough to review this game. This is kind of my early impressions of the game, and that price tag still for me is a little difficult to recommend, because, say what you want, price is pretty important to most people, especially when you look at the amount of games that I did enjoy this month. The price adds up pretty quick, so you got to start cutting games off that list pretty quickly, figuring out where you can, where you can not spend money. Now, Ikamu Splinters of the Dark Shard, I'm just going to flat out say it. unless you're a big achievement guy, like massive achievement guy, unless you're one of those people who anytime a game comes out that you can beat in 4 hours or less, you have to buy it, don't buy this game. I really, really, really don't want to have to go into why it's terrible, other than the fact that it feels unfinished. It's buggy. It has very, very little redeeming qualities. I don't think we have a review for this, or Bloons for that matter, up on the website at the moment. But I would just say that, just from my playthrough of this game, which I played about, I want to say an hour, Zero played the full thing. And I talked to him in detail. He was telling me basically the same thing I was seeing. I watched him play it. He played it live on XBLA Fans, so he played a full run during the stream, which obviously means it's a very short game. However, it was not a very good game. There's not much going on to it. It's very simplistic and not in a good way. If you, for some reason, really, really want to see more on it, obviously we do have our quick taste video of this one. And I would just say, unless you really want those achievement points, if you're a gamer score whore, it's an easy completion. It's only $4.99, but it's $4.99 for a reason. I'm going to skip all the way to Valley of Victory Adventure Bundle for Smite. I would say that this was actually really cool in my opinion. And this is one of the things I think Smite is actually doing better than, say, Overwatch. And that's the fact that these are not limited event achievements. These are limited event awards. So instead of making it a limited event achievement where you can only get it during the event and then it's gone forever, basically, or at least until maybe they possibly bring it back in a year, Smite has kind of done something different. So they've given you cosmetic rewards that you can earn in-game without having to spend money on some of this. Obviously, if you do spend the $11.99, you get a Nike skin, you get the upgrade, you can get to the emote, and you get some other stuff. But there are some things you can actually earn just by playing it. Obviously, you can also play the content for free, which is fantastic. So this is mostly you're getting cosmetic stuff when you do buy this Victory Adventure Bundle. There is the Guan Yu skin, Guan Unicorn, and Swashbuckler Susano, both of which are really cool in my opinion. I think they're kind of awesome. Valley of Victory is kind of a CTF mode for Smite, and it's fairly well done. I will admit I was kind of disappointed the fact that you could only play as 5 characters. So the fact that you're limited to 5 specific gods kind of sucks. However, it does feel like the game is kind of balanced around those 5, so it's kind of understandable. But I do like the fact that none of this stuff was actual achievements. It was just in-game content. So, you didn't have to spend extra money to be able to do this. And you also, when it disappears, you're not going to be punished if you didn't get a chance to complete it. It's pretty fun. I think it's pretty fun. Definitely worth checking out. I really don't remember 100% what you get for free now when you do this, but I think there were at least some Smite award points you could get, and I think that might have been it. I think a lot of it you may have had to pay for, now that I'm thinking about it. But either way, it's still pretty cool, and I would highly suggest checking it out and playing it. You may not need to get you don't really need to buy the bundle unless you're just a big Smite fan who wants, the cosmetic stuff. Because I think the Nike skin, the Guan Unicorn skin, and the upgradable emote, the global emote flag, is pretty cool, actually. So I enjoyed it. Okay, so we're going to go all the way to Verdun. Yeah. So I don't really like trashing games. It's not something I enjoy. I don't understand this game. I don't understand why it's fun. I don't think it's going to survive. I've only played about 3 hours. I did not enjoy any of those 3 hours. I'm sure this game is out there for somebody. The whole concept of a more gritty, realistic World War I could be cool. Obviously, it kind of sucks for them that Battlefield 1 kind of jumped in front of them, did their own, alternate timeline, World War 1. I think their version's obviously more polished. It's obviously a little bit more focused on being fun. versus being realistic. I think Verdun every once in a while got a little too stuck in the weeds for me, where it was like, okay, I can't pick up new weapons, obviously. I have just a bolt action rifle. There's not much going on in the way of enjoyment for me. You know, it's like, okay, so I could just kind of take pot shots at people running at me from a bolt action rifle, or some of the guys only have pistols, and I found out the pistol was actually pretty good, so I kind of regret not having the pistol the next time I played. I had a very, very rare time actually finding even matches. I don't know, like, pretty frequently it would pop up and be like, someone needs to change teams, and it's like, oh, that's great. So obviously I feel for the developers. I feel like they're trying really hard to make this work. So I don't want to completely bash it or anything, but it was not for me at all. I would personally not recommend picking it up. I think it's almost impossible, to be perfectly honest, to launch a multiplayer only game on like ID, or even back when it was XBLA. I think stuff like that really needs to be free to play if it's only multiplayer based. Now, I mean, they do have like their own kind of frontlines mode or something where you could like kind of kill waves of enemies, but I didn't really enjoy it that much. And yeah, that's just me. So, I mean, if you're really looking for something that's, you know, a hardcore World War I experience, obviously, you know, very focused on being realistic over being fun, I would say this does exist. I can't promise that you're gonna be able to find matches, you know, a month or two in the future. But last time I checked, there was at least a couple lobbies going, so it's not like it's dead already, which is nice. Sublevel Zero Redux. This is a roguelike with 6 degrees of freedom. Obviously, you know, as you progress through the levels, you can get new weapons, new chassis, new other random stuff, you know, health packs. 6 degrees of freedom's pretty cool. It's been a while since I've seen that. It's out for $19.99, obviously. I think the price is a little too high for me personally, especially for me to recommend. I didn't particularly enjoy this that much. I think we're kind of inundated with roguelikes anymore on Xbox One. Like, there's just tons of them. And while I do love them, I mean, it just means, like, you kind of got to draw a line somewhere. So, like, if you really want a roguelike, there's another one later I'm going to talk about this month, and I think it's better. So, personally, I was not a huge fan of Sublevel Zero. I probably only played about, 2 to 3 hours, so maybe it gets better as I keep playing. I'll come back to it eventually, but it's not one I really have any desire to play more of. So, now Clicker Heroes, I will admit I have Clicker Heroes going on my left screen right here. I'm trying to not pay attention to it, but every once in a while, you know, a relic or a ruby thing pops up, you know, those ruby fish, and I'm like, I want to click you. I want to click you. So this game has been around for forever. It was on I want to say it was on web stuff. I remember playing it on PC a long time back, and yeah, it's pretty chill. So it's actually surprisingly deep. If you're an achievement hunter, it's grindy as hell. It's going to take you forever. I think there might be a way to glitch it, but I don't really feel like flaunting that. But if you want to look it up, you can probably find it. I've been doing some videos on how to actually play it legit if you're interested. I think it's pretty fun. It's one of those games that, like, I can check through, you know, a couple times a day. I maybe spend 20 to 30 minutes on it during the course of a day. You know, mostly at the beginning of the day, mostly at the end of the day, every once in a while just popping over to look. And I've enjoyed it. So I think it's surprisingly deep. There's a lot of different strategy. There's a very early, or very easily defined early, mid, and late game in this game. And that's kind of cool to me that there's, like, different phases. So, you know, like, there's a lot going on. But Kitty Powers Matchmaker. Now, we do have a review on this one on the site. Kitty Powers Matchmaker is actually surprisingly fun. I will admit it. I enjoyed it for, I would say, about 2 hours. I think I played it 3 hours. So, for about the first 2 hours, it was pretty funny. And, like, the minigames still felt kind of fresh. Now, the unique thing about this is it's a dating sim. There's not that many dating sims on Xbox One. One of the cool things is you can actually use your own like person, and that person will eventually populate into other people's games. So I know like both Bitter and Christine were trying to find me a match. It didn't work out for either of them, because apparently my avatar is way too picky. But I thought it was kind of funny that stuff like that happens. Obviously, when you set two people up, it gives you like this weird little letter like a couple days later with like funny backstory. I'm gonna go toss that completely across the room just to not have it keep beeping. But I thought it was kind of funny. It does get very repetitive. It's pretty far on the raunchy side, but for the most part, it's like innuendo. Like, so, like, you could be playing it with kids in the room and it's not really going to affect them. I think Christine gave it a reader's choice. My notes, unfortunately, got destroyed before the video, so I'm going off what I remember from when I researched all this. But I will say it's definitely something that is worth checking out. I don't think it's going to, like, for me personally, I don't think it'll appeal to everybody. But it's better than you think it is. It does feel a little mobile. Artistically, it's definitely a little mobile on that side. You know, it's not like amazing graphics or anything. And like a lot of the characters do look a little samey. And that's kind of a bummer, but hey. Now, Tabletop Racing World Tour. Now that I think about it, this one I actually haven't played either. So this is one of the few games I have not played. Everything I've heard about it, though, from Zero was that it was pretty good. When we stream these on XBLA Fans, typically either I do it or Zero does it. And we kind of, you know, alternate for the most part. So, like, I think I did Bloons, you know, I did Smite, I did Verdun, I did Kitty Powers. Obviously, he did Tabletop and Ikamu. So, you know, like, this is one I just hadn't had a chance to go back to. I heard good things about it, though. So I just want to leave it at that. I'm not a big racing guy. So for me, like, the genre is just not something that super appeals to me. However, I heard good things about Tabletop Racing. I know he enjoyed it for the most part. I think graphically it looks pretty good. I was watching him play it on stream for a couple hours, and it looks like a very solid game if you're looking for a racing game. And I'm just going to kind of leave that one at that. I don't want to go too deep on something that I'm not super familiar with. Now, Too Dark is kind of a action survival, like not really action, more of a stealth survival game, kind of, like stealth survival horror. I was like trying to figure out the phrase. That's the phrase I'm looking for. So it's kind of done by the Alone in the Dark team. So, you know, it's a little different than what I'm used to. I thought it looked really cool. What I've played of it so far is pretty cool. I think I've only been able to play about an hour and a half of this one. So I'm looking forward to doing more. I do feel like the combat felt a little off. Even just, you know, with the fact that when you come up behind someone and you try to kill them with, you know, stealth attacks, you think you'd be able to just take somebody out with like a crowbar. Probably not. So like combat definitely feels like something you need to kind of be very careful about. It's definitely got some dark elements, and I'm looking forward to trying more of it. It's $29.99. It's a pretty steep price tag, but I don't know. I feel like if you're looking for something like this in particular, it's definitely worth checking out. We do have a quick taste up on this one, and it's one that I'm personally looking forward to playing a little bit more of, just so I can kind of understand it a little better. I haven't had a ton of time to go into this one, so I'm not going to dive into it too deep. Alright, now as we get through this, I've played a lot of these games a lot more, so I'm looking forward to talking about some of these. I'm going to skip Strove and Styx and go to Death Squared. Death Squared, okay, so Joey is reviewing this for us. He's told me he loves it so far. I'm really curious to see where he ends up landing on the final review. What I played of it, I enjoyed. I thought it was very humorous. It's a pretty decent puzzle game. It felt a lot better than other similar kind of move the boxes puzzle games, because there have been a couple of those on Xbox. Obviously, this is a little more in-depth than them. Graphically, it's pretty, you know, cool looking. Like, you know, like I like the artistic style. I love the humor in it. Most of it's just been pretty solid so far. So it's got that kind of Portal-y vibe with, you know, kind of the sarcastic humor and stuff. And I like that so far. So, like, Death Squared is probably the first of the games this month that I would genuinely say I recommend. I'm just double checking that's true, and yeah, it is. So yeah, Death Squared is probably the first of the games that I would say I recommend. It's definitely worth checking out. $19.99 is a little steep for a puzzle game, but like if you're going for a full completion, it's got a nice balance to it, to where I think it takes about like 25 hours. Not something that's super ridiculous, but it's gonna take you a little bit more than, say Cubot. So like there's enough gameplay, I think, to actually last that for the most part. It's got online multiplayer and local co-op, so that's pretty cool. At least I think it had online. I don't want to say something wrong here now that I'm thinking about it. I'm pretty sure. No, it's just local. Oh man, I can't believe I said that. So it's local only, but 1 to 2 to 4 players with local friends, which is pretty cool. Like obviously you can look at the level design. I wasn't planning on going into each of these, but hey, this is one that I kind of want to recommend, so I want to make sure you guys have a chance to check this out. Like, I haven't played it co-op yet, so, like, I don't really know how that's going to play, but I know Joey has, and he was enjoying it that way. I'm personally more of one of those people who's like, I just want to play by myself. That's just kind of how I am. So, I have not done that. Obviously, just making it clear, it's local only. Got slight mix-up there on that, but still pretty decent game. Definitely worth checking out. Banner Saga Complete Pack with Survival. If you haven't played Banner Saga and you didn't get it when it was Games with Gold, I would say pick that up. I really enjoyed that game. I'm not going to go super in depth on it. We have full playthroughs, I believe, on our YouTube even. Now, Dark Arcana the Carnival. I played through all of this on stream. I like this one. I would say it's definitely an Artifex Mundi game. You either know by now whether you like those or you don't. It's the hidden object games, kind of point and clicks. This is one of the ones that requires you to do 2 playthroughs to get the full completion. So I know that bugs some people. Excuse me. So it does bug some people. You're going to have to play Games of Monaco on the second playthrough. So Monaco is kind of like a flipping card game where you kind of have to match 2 cards next to each other. It's pretty simple. Obviously, again, you either know whether you like these or not. I think it took me about 4 hours to get the full completion, so that's not too bad. I thought the plot was decent, for what it is, and like the puzzles are always fine. Like there's nothing like super amazing about them, but there's nothing bad. It's like, if you like these type of games, you're going to like it. If you don't, you're not. Now, Kona is the game that I know for a fact I have not had any chance to really play. I did watch a couple streams of it from some people, and it's one of those games that, because, like, I don't know, I just felt like I didn't have enough time to pick it up anyway. So, like, I was already playing everything else that came out that week, and I was like, So I'll pick it up eventually because it sounded really interesting. Kind of sounded kind of Lone Darkish, or not Lone Dark, Long Dark, and definitely sounded like something that could be pretty interesting. So I'll eventually want to check it out. Blue Collar Astronaut. Okay, so I didn't like this one. I'm just gonna be blunt. Not that there's anything particularly wrong with it. Just wasn't super fun. For me at least. So it's a physics-based kind of 2D space puzzle game, I guess is the best way to put it. So it tries to be humorous with loan debt, and I don't know. For me personally, that baby doesn't hit. So you kind of just upgrade your spaceship and you do blue-collar space work. So you start off, just going from point A to point B, then eventually you're like delivering pizzas, and then eventually I think you haul a trailer. I played about 2 hours or so of this game. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I don't want to go too much more in depth. One guy developed it, which is always kind of cool. So it's only $9. Check it out. Maybe you like it more than I do, but it's not one that I'd personally recommend. So I'm just going to kind of move on. Now, Neurovoider. Neurovoider is $14 basically, $13.99. It's a pretty decent roguelike from what I've played. I have not played enough of it to go super in depth on this. This is one that Zero streamed. I played about an hour or so the other day just so I could talk about it. There's like, 3 different body types, each has different abilities. Some of these guys are melee, some of them have, different types of weapons. I would definitely recommend this over, say, the game earlier we were talking about with such a forgettable name, Sublevel Zero. I would definitely recommend this over that. I think the price is A, more fair, and B, I think the game was just slightly better. It's lots of kind of wave enemies. It's pretty standard twin stick stuff. If you like that type of stuff, I think you'll enjoy it. Now, Vermintide's a good game. If you haven't checked that out, highly recommend it. But I'm going to skip over to Momodora. Momodora is a little weird. It's a 2D action game. It's, I think, the 3rd or the 4th one in this franchise. I don't recall off the top of my head which one it is. It's a little weird. Definitely a little weird. I know at one point you fight a boss that's a giant set of boobs, which is just strange, man. So strange. You're kind of, a girl with a leaf, and you run around and you beat stuff. It plays really well. It plays really, really well. For a $9 title, it plays really well. So, like, if you're into action platformers, this is pretty good. Like, it's pretty good. Like, I don't think I'd personally recommend it just because there's a lot of games that came out this month that are, in my opinion, a little better. But it's a very solid game. So it's definitely worth checking out. I've only played about an hour and a half of it. I watched Zero play 3 hours of it. Both of us enjoyed it for the most part. So I'm going to skip Super Dungeon Bros. This was a terrible Games with Gold game. Unless they have done extensive patchwork that I'm not familiar with, it's not worth spending money on. Like, it was bad. It was bad, man. It was bad. This is the Police. I love this game so far. So This is the Police is really interesting to me because it's something different. And I love when games are different. So it's a lot of good things going on in this game. I would personally recommend this one. I know $19.99 is a little steep for what it is. I had a lot of fun with it so far, and I'm really looking forward to playing more of it. So I would say so far, this is definitely one that I would say you need to check out. So this is the Police. You play as, kind of a cop who's about to retire. You've got to deal with the different things that are going on. You've got the mayor down your throat. You've got, the public has their own issues. Eventually, the plot goes to some, kind of corrupt places. As you do things, you kind of got to manage your different cops. So you gotta complete an entire workforce. You gotta hire and fire people. It's a management strategy type of game with a little bit of like a full-on kind of almost like graphic novel types, not graphic novel, visual novel type story. And it's pretty decent, and it's got a lot of different things going on. I found it pretty engaging. I found a lot of the choices to be thought-provoking. Definitely pretty interesting. So I would definitely personally recommend checking this one out. If you're into that type of stuff, you got to like the kind of management strategy type stuff, as well as look for games that are a little more story-driven. But from what I played, I enjoyed it a lot. I really want to go back to this one, and I don't know. I thought it was pretty solid. So I'm going to skip these bundles and go to Worlds of Magic Planar Conquest. Okay, I just remembered. I hadn't played this one either. I think that's the last one I haven't played. So I did not really think this one looked that appealing to me. It was, $28.99. That's kind of a weird price to begin with. But I watched Zero play it. It looked okay. It's kind of D&D-esque. And I'm not going to go super in-depth on this one because if you're really interested in it, just look it up. I don't think most people are going to be that interested in it. It didn't feel that good. 88 Heroes is a really unique platformer. I had a lot of fun with this one. You play as kind of like the 88 worst heroes. It's kind of different, like one of them is literally kind of a Clippy the paperclip kind of guy, except I think he's a question mark. You've got Saxy Dave. Saxy Dave's pretty great, by the way. And then a few other random characters that are just kind of humorous. I don't want to spoil too many of them. That's kind of the main draw of the game, is the fact that, 88 different characters, almost all of which play somewhat differently. There are a few that are kind of cloney, but for the most part, it's pretty different. You can go through very small different level segments, each of which you have 88 seconds to complete. There's this whole kind of humorous, like, villain talking to you as you play thing going on. I think it's pretty solid. Like, it's just on the verge, of my opinion, of being, like, recommendable. I would definitely say it's worth checking out, but it's not one I would say this month to, like, super check out. Like, I'm trying to keep the ones I'm recommending down to a little bit of a minimum, and I would say that one's good, but it's just not there for me. So, Has-Been Heroes, this is one I really, really, really want to play more of. So I've only played, I want to say, 2 hours of this one. Felt super unique. It's a roguelike with 3 lanes. You attack people, and each of your heroes has a different attack pattern. Each of the enemies has a different amount of stamina. You want to try to match the attack patterns to the stamina, so it kind of gets a little puzzly at times almost. So it's very much a strategy game. It's pretty quick, fast-paced roguelike for the most part, though. But it's kind of like, you pick your actions, and you have a chance to pause if you need to. Pick new actions. So, there's a lot of things you can do. It's pretty deep strategy. It looks like there's going to be a lot going on with it. I've not had enough time to play, like, super in-depth. But what I did play, I liked. It's definitely, like, 88 Heroes, in my opinion. Like, both of these are on the verge of being really, really solid, in my opinion. So I think there are going to be people who like both of these. So they're definitely worth checking out. Now, I never say this name right. Anoxima, I don't know. But this game is kind of like a weird horror underwater game. I don't know. So I didn't get deep enough in it to, like, truly see some of the horror stuff. But what I did play was kind of bland, to be honest. It's $8. You play as kind of like a drone, but you also have a human who floats behind you. So you got to protect both of them. So, like, the drone can't get hit by EMPs. The human can't get hit by spears. You can kind of, block the EMPs with the human. You're just going around levels underwater, collecting different things. There's some basic puzzle elements. It's supposed to have a pretty deep story when you get to it, but I didn't get to see much of that in the first hour or so I played. So I would say it's a little iffy for me. Like, I don't think it's bad per se, but I didn't think it was that great. $7.99, definitely on the lower end for pricing at least, which is nice to see. RBI Baseball. So RBI Baseball 17 and I have, like, a massive love-hate relationship. I used to be one of the people who would defend RBI Baseball. Like, 2015 RBI Baseball, I was like, guys, it's supposed to be nostalgic. It's trying to be simplistic. It wants to have one button control. So, graphically, it's not, going to be MLB The Show. Like, it's not supposed to be any of that. And I still think that. I still genuinely think there is a place for RBI Baseball. However, I feel like this year is really shoddy. And what I mean by that is, like, there's very few improvements. I think a lot of the UI design that has been changed was just changed to make it look different. There is currently no multiplayer mode. They just removed it for now. They claim they're going to be releasing a better full-on multiplayer mode than what they had before, but I don't know. Like, I don't really trust games that released half-finished and just say, oops, when on release. Like, there are screenshots on Reddit when this game released of people taking pictures of when it said it still had multiplayer before they finally fixed that on the storefront. Yeah, like, I just don't think it's particularly that much of an improvement from 2016. Obviously, it's the same thing it's always been. Pretty bad graphically. Very nostalgic reliant. So, like, if you played RBI Baseball as a kid and you're used to, those 1-2 touch button baseball games, maybe it's kind of appealing. What sucks for us is, Xbox fans is this is the only licensed game we get on Xbox One. So they kind of can milk that for all it's worth. This is the only thing we get a choice on. So, like, Super Mega Baseball is going to come out. I personally think it's looking good so far. Can't wait to play that one. I would personally say don't buy RBI Baseball this year, even if it does have updated rosters. I will give them this. They do a good job of keeping that updated, throughout the season, even after you buy the game. But, man, I can't justify just paying for the license at this point. Air Guitar Warrior for Kinect. I don't even have my Kinect hooked up. I don't want to just go too deep on this. It looks interesting, but I feel like if you're a big Kinect fan at this point, you're in a very small minority, and I'm going to let someone who focuses on Kinect games cover that for you. I'm just going to skip past that. It looks interesting, but, and this developer supports that peripheral a lot. So, he's making a lot of games for it. All right, Snake Pass. Highly recommend Snake Pass. Snake Pass is a very fun game. I played it on stream. I beat it in about 4 hours or so. So I beat the game, I think, in about 4 hours. However, obviously, I have tons of collectibles I need to go back and get. So it's very much based on kind of the rare collectathons of the N64 genre or generation. And it's pretty cool. You play as Noodle the Snake, and you've got Doodle the Bird, kind of like Banjo-Kazooie type thing going on there. You only really play as Noodle, though. Doodle can occasionally do something useful, but that's mostly later on in the game. The mechanics are pretty simplistic. You hold R to move. If you slither in an S pattern, you actually move faster. You can use A to lift your head. Left trigger curls tighter so you can get around, various things. Some of these coins and collectibles are actually hidden in some pretty difficult areas. I will say that if you play the game in one sitting like I did, it does start to feel very repetitive. And it does feel like they kind of ran out of ideas by the end of it. Because you start to feel like you're seeing a lot of the same things over and over. I will say, though, it's very solid. Definitely worth checking out. I think it's worth the $19.99 personally. So, I would definitely recommend that one. Thimbleweed Park. I need to play more of this, but what I played so far, I absolutely loved. Honestly, if you like games like Monkey Island or, any of Ron Gilbert's previous work, I think you're going to love this one. It's kind of got a little bit of, wow. I'm blanking on the name of the show now, but, it's got some surreal elements to it. What I play, he plays 5 different characters. It's old school point and click adventure game. It's got some cool actual upgrade elements to the UI though. It's got some cool things it's doing, and Nate reviewed this for us. He gave it a must buy, so I'm going to throw this into the recommended just off that. Definitely something worth checking out. It's really cool so far, and I'm looking forward to playing the entirety of this one. I honestly can't wait to finish this one. Now, Skykeepers is $14.99. It's kind of another action platformer. It feels really bland. It doesn't particularly feel bad, but it feels really bland. There's not really much going on. I will say the plot is surprisingly dark, at least initially. I played, I want to say, an hour and a half of this game. Definitely very reliant on learning how to block, how to, do all that different stuff. You got to learn some basic combos. There's some cool moves, but in general, the game's just super bland. It doesn't feel like it's anything particularly special. I'm just going to kind of skip past that one. If you're super interested in it, I might do a quick taste at some point. I don't think I've finished it yet. I did record one. I just never got a chance to do the audio for it. Now, the Inner World is pretty cool looking. I want to play a lot more of this one. I've heard very good things about it. The only reason I'm not going to recommend it is because Thimbleweed Park is the exact same genre, and I'm kind of trying to touch a little bit of different genres here. And I will say, it's worth checking out. Very good looking, very cool game. I think, I want to say Nate did the review for this one as well. he gave it a highly recommended. So it's definitely a good game. And art style's great. Story seems like it's going to be something pretty cool. The puzzles are pretty well designed. Like, it's got everything you want to see. But definitely one I want to play more of. I've only played maybe an hour of it, so I didn't really get much time to play it. Now, Punch Club, $9.99. I have played, I want to say, 20 hours of this game. I find it super addicting. I think it's awesome. There is literally so many nostalgic references in this game that, like, if you have any attachment to, say, the 80s or 90s, you're just going to be pumped full of just funny stuff. So I think it's really cool. I don't want to go and ruin too many of those kind of special moments in a sense. But the game is kind of a fighting simulation, management, a little bit of Tycoon, a little bit of RPG kind of game. I found it super interesting. Think of something like Stardew, but kind of throw in more of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles vibe to it. And that's kind of what you get. Obviously, it's got kind of a minimalistic look on the graphics compared to some of the other games that release. I found it super fun. It's definitely a lot of management of stats. I'm going to be doing a full review of this one, actually, so I'll have my thoughts a lot more laid out on that. There are some issues with it, but I would say at the moment I would definitely throw this into the recommended category. Like, it's been really solid, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this, and a lot of people probably would have overlooked it. And I would definitely say it's worth checking out. Four-Sided Fantasy. So Four-Sided Fantasy was one that kind of surprised me. I really, really like this game. $9.99. It's a puzzle game. It's got some really cool mechanics. I don't want to ruin them too much, but kind of the gist is, initially at least, that all four sides of the screen allow you to just walk off them, and eventually you can end up on the other side. They start doing some really cool stuff with this one as the game progresses. I definitely personally think it's worth checking out. $9.99. It's a really cool puzzle game. If you like kind of basic puzzle platformers, I think you're going to like it. I don't want to call it Limbo-esque because it's not really Limbo-esque. It's kind of like just, puzzle platformer genre. It's a little bit more mechanically intensive than some of those. I would definitely say it's a very fun game. You can complete it in about 2 hours. Actually, I don't know about the completion being 2 hours, but I know you can beat the game in about 2 hours. I think you have to do another 2 runs to be able to actually complete the game. So, and like one of them is going to have to be like a near flawless run. So, sorry about, I mixed up my terms there a little bit. You can't complete it, but you can beat the game. So it's a fun game. I had a lot of fun with it. I think I got like 600 achievement points or gamer score out of it. There's it's gonna be a little hard to get, I think, those last 2 achievements though, because one of them is you have to only do certain amount of button presses and whatnot, and that's gonna be a little difficult. So like just going through again, I would highly recommend Four-Sided Fantasy, Punch Club. Inner World just barely misses it for me. Thimbleweed Park, definitely. Snake Pass, definitely. Has-Been Heroes and 88 Heroes are both very good, but I would probably not recommend them. This Is the Police I would definitely recommend. And Death Squared as well. Clicker Heroes is fun and all. It's free. Give it a try. But outside of those, the Valley of Victory Adventure Bundle is really cool, but it's mostly cosmetic. So, if you're a Smite fan, you're going to love it. If you're not a Smite fan, you should give it a chance to play some of the Capture the Flag stuff. But you don't really need to buy the bundle for that. So, as far as recommendations, Four-Sided Fantasy, really, really good playing on puzzle platformer. Punch Club, kind of a strategy simulation with a little bit of Tycoon stuff, a little bit of, RPG. Thimbleweed, very, very good point and click. Snake Pass is a very, very good platformer. And then This Is the Police is kind of like Punch Club, but a little bit more toward story and a little bit more toward managing a group and not a individual. So like in Punch Club, you're kind of managing individual stats for yourself. In this one, you're kind of managing like a whole police outfit. And then I would say Death Squared is a very, very good puzzle game. Just much more on the puzzle end. Like, this is much more on the platform end. This is kind of in the middle of puzzle and platform. And then this one is much more just puzzle. So I would say these are all very good. Definitely games worth checking out. It was actually a very, very, very good month for ID at Xbox, in my opinion. And I would definitely check out a lot of these games. And even if I wasn't super hot on it, like, some of these are still worth looking into. You might really like something like Momodora, even though I wasn't super into it. Neurovoider is another decent game. Definitely worth considering. Kitty Powers is actually pretty humorous. I'm sure there's going to be some people who really like Too Dark and Bloons, even though I think they're slightly overpriced. And tabletop racing is just not my genre personally, but I've heard good things about it. So, like, a lot of these games are pretty solid, definitely worth looking into. I just want to thank you guys for checking out this video. I really do appreciate it. If you guys have any feedback on the format for this or any comments or suggestions, please do leave them in the comments. If you guys like this video, please do like it and share it. The more people start liking and sharing something, the more I know that people like that content, and I know to do more of it. And that's awesome for us. We really want to do stuff that you guys actually want to, see. So thank you guys again so much for checking out this video. I really do appreciate it. And later.